Looks like we got a bunch of scouts here. Some of you, I noticed our acolyte this morning. I didn't see a fireman chest in my life. It was okay. It was okay. And happy Scout Sunday to you all. So today, in the gospel lesson, we're going to talk a little bit about fishing. Any of you got a fishing badge? No fishing badge. Well, what do you need when you go fishing? Yeah. What do you need when you go fishing? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. You fished, right?
Yeah.
What do you take with you?
A hook
To
to put the bait on.
put the bait on, that's an idea. Yeah, okay.
Fishing rod.
You got a fishing rod? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. What would you put in a can like this? Yeah?
Night crawlers.
Night crawlers. All right. You know how to find those, I'm sure.
After it rains.
Yeah, after it rains, you can find them. They're there. So, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this can later on in the sermon. But this can doesn't have night crawlers in it. I'm just okay. But they're, why not? It has a different purpose. Little Jimmy. But in this story coming up, they fish not with fish hooks, and they fish not with fishing poles.
They fish with nets.
They fish with nets, and we'll talk about that and why that's important to do that. I appreciate you coming here. I have, by the way, both, if you want to pass this is the children's bulletin we put together. So I thank you for coming up and being scouts. And you know what the motto of the scouts is? Do your best. That's right. Okay.
My best.
The Gospel according to Luke, the 5th chapter. Once while Jesus was standing beside the lake of Gennesaret, and the crowd was pressing in on him to hear the word of God, he saw 2 boats there at the shore of the lake. The fishermen had gone out of them and were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little way from the shore. Then he sat down and taught the crowds from the boat. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into the deep water and let out your nets for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we have worked all night long, but have caught nothing. Yet, if you say so, I will let down the nets." When they had done this, they caught so many fish that their nets were beginning to break. So they signaled their partners in the other boat to come and help out. And then they came and filled both boats, so that they began to sink. But when Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, "Go away from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." For he and all who were with him were amazed at the catch of fish they had taken. And so also were James and John, sons of Zebedee, who were partners with Simon. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Do not be afraid. From now on, you will be catching people." When they had brought their boats to shore, they left everything and followed him. The gospel of our Lord. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and Lord Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit. It's been 2 months since I've spoken to you from the pulpit. Christmas is past. I traveled with Bethany Theological Seminary to sunny Puerto Rico during the cold snap that we had to share a Bible study of Mark with a Spanish-speaking church down there. And I've taken a class on James, 1st and 2nd Peter, and Jude at the Philadelphia campus of the United Lutheran Seminary. It's good to be among you all again this day. Today we have an account of the call Jesus makes to the first disciples. We've heard in the Sundays since Christmas about Jesus' baptism, his temptation in the wilderness, his first sermon, and his rejection at Nazareth, and a whole series of healings. And there was also a series of events that included him going on to a deserted place to be alone, but still being sought out by the crowds of people in his teachings in the synagogues. Last Sunday, Reverend H. spoke to you about faith, and to the children about being a good shepherd. Today I want to continue to speak to you about faith and what you're called to do with it. The gospel story today opens with Jesus beside Lake Gennesaret, better known to us as the Sea of Galilee. The crowd is large and it's close to Jesus, pressing into him, and they will not leave him alone because they want to hear the words of the Lord, the words of God. A fisherman named Simon has a boat that Jesus gets in and asks Simon to take the boat out from the shore so he can speak to the crowd. And when he's done preaching and teaching the people, he asks Simon to go out to the deep water. Now, this is not where you usually find fish. And put down the nets for a catch. Well, Simon says that they fished all night and caught nothing. But because Simon respects this great teacher, he does so. And there's a great catch of fish. The catch is so great that others must come along to help. The boats almost sink with all the catch that they bring in. At one part in the story, you notice that Simon is now called Simon Peter. And he falls down on his knees and he confesses how unworthy he is to be with Jesus. And the story ends with Jesus recruiting Simon and his fellow people there as his disciples, fishers of men. When they came ashore, they left everything behind, their boats, the fish, and their families. You know, I read this passage over and over again, and I wondered, what happened with all the fish? They have 2 big boats full of fish, but they leave them behind. Well, we get the answer in the same story related in the story of Matthew. Simon's father, Zebedee, is left in the boat. I bet he had quite a day cleaning all those fish. Clearly the main figure in this whole story, apart from Jesus himself, is Simon Peter. It is his boat that Jesus uses. It is he who Jesus speaks to first, asking him to go to the deep water. And Simon Peter is the only person who speaks to Jesus. He addresses him as master, In the Greek, it's a term used for tutors and teachers. But after this miraculous catch, Simon addresses Jesus as Lord. Likewise, Simon Peter is the only one whom Jesus addresses personally and directly. Did you also notice Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid"? Well, I've talked about this before here. Words that are always part of a godly moment. And in its various different forms throughout the Bible, at least 365 times, yes, that's once for every day during the year. God said it to Abraham, to Joshua, to Samuel. Angels said it to Mary as the chosen vessel for the virgin birth. To Joseph, Mary's betrothed. To shepherds to announce Jesus' birth. And to women, the women who went to the empty tomb to care for Jesus' body after he was crucified. Essential to faith is not being afraid. The first four apostles were all in the fishing business. They all had their own boats. They were like middle-class businessmen at the time. They had no religious credentials. They were not from the temple. There was nothing special about them for Jesus to have chosen them except their faith. I want to tell you another story. Legend has it that back in the Dust Bowl days, that's back in the Great Depression, a thirsty man made his way through the desert to California, and he'd run out of water. The traveler came upon a rundown shack, and nearby was a well with a pump, and the only source of water for miles around. Attached to the pump is a tin can with a message inside, which was written in pencil on an old envelope. See what it says. This pump is all right. As of June 1932, I put a new sucker washer into it, and it ought to last 5 years. But the washer dries out in the heat, and the pump has got to be primed, or you get no water. Under the white rock behind the pump, I buried a bottle of water. It's out of the sun with the cork end up. There's just enough water in it to prime the pump, but not if you drink some water first. Pour about a quarter of the water in and let her soak to wet down the leather. Then pour in the rest, medium fast, and begin to pump. You'll get water. The well has never run dry. Have faith. When you get all the water you need, fill the bottle and put it back just like you found it for the next fellow. Signed, Desert Pete. Oh, P.S. Don't go drinking up all the water first. Prime the pump, and if you get all, and then you'll get all the water you want. Now consider you're the person who comes up to the well and you're very thirsty. What do? You really have two choices. Drink a little water immediately to parch, because you're parched. Or obey the note and find limitless water for yourself and future travels. So the real question is how are you doing with your journey of faith right now? Are you gulping a few swallows and then just getting by? Or Are you looking at the larger picture and finding faith and sharing it with the next person? Reading the note kind of gives us instructions for life. And that note for us is the Bible. It was written by those who came before us and inspired by the Holy Spirit. And it reminds us of those who traveled this life before us and left behind instructions. They experienced many of the same struggles that we have and joys. And we must remember that we're not the first, and we're certainly not the last. And one of the great lessons that the note in the can gives us is that and there's no options with this, we have faith before we can receive. Countless people have given of their faith so that we might live and grow. I'm sure you have people in your life that you can point to that have shared faith with you. The faith that matters is that which lives on after we're gone. The note in the can points us to think of those people traveling. Desert Pete certainly thought of you and me, and if we can think of the next person, we will too. Well, the first lesson that was read today is a majestic text from Isaiah and the call of the prophet Isaiah. The second lesson is from Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, in which he talks to his own call as an apostle. These call stories speak to us today to become disciples. We're called to be disciples of Jesus, who came to this world to reveal God and to redeem the world. And the call of the first disciples marks the beginning of a movement that culminates in the founding of the church. And, you know, this church and all churches did not come into existence just because there was a group of people that wanted to do something good, something benevolent. From the Gospels, we learn that it had its beginnings with Jesus, who called certain people to follow him. He created a community of disciples who heard him preach, teach, heal, and finally suffer, die, and rise from death on the first Easter. What does it mean for us to leave everything and follow Jesus? It's kind of a tall order, is it not? I think it means that we need to let go of the idea that there will never be enough. There will never be enough things to secure our future if we don't make room in our own boats and in our hearts and in our lives for our brothers and sisters. I think it means we let go of our clenched fists that convince us that our money and our possessions belong to us and not to God. One of the children's messages to God that I love is a letter from a little boy who bargained with God. But he didn't want to let go of what really mattered to him. He said, "Dear God, if you give me a genie lamp like Aladdin, I will give you everything and anything you want. Well, except my money and my Xbox." Anything but. Anything you want, God, except my money and my Xbox. Or my belief I can take care of myself, or my conviction that it's only fair that I have what I have, and that I deserve what I have, and that others who are in need, well, they must have done something to deserve what they got. Or not. Living life as a disciple of Christ is a call that takes us to new places and even gives us a new name, Christians. And it transforms our lives in ways that surprises and amazes us and fills us with awe, like Peter that day on the shore, just before he said yes to the call. our lives won't be transformed if we don't trust God enough to strike out into deep waters. When we're tired, when we're sure it won't work, even when conventional wisdom urges us instead to accept the status quo. What would happen if we found ways to share what we have, our giving and the ways we reach out to others and work with others to build a more compassionate world? To consider the needs of the poor, the children, the elderly, of those who cannot take care of themselves. How do we share this good news? Our reading also provides an excellent opportunity for reflection on the ministry of evangelism. No matter how uncomfortable we may be with that word, it's there in the Bible. Several commentators observe that fishing is a metaphor for evangelism, and it doesn't really have to entail dead fish. Some people are uncomfortable with the word evangelism. It seems kind of disingenuous, not kind or gentle, because of the hooking something, not a net. Some overzealous folks and well-meaning folks miss the point of how Jesus evangelized, but that shouldn't deter us. We might cast the net of God's love all around, open to all the world, and then wait with patience for the Spirit's work and see if we're caught by God's vision and grace. We've been challenged to get outside of our circle, our own comfortable congregations and our families. And evangelism isn't about convincing others of our truth or getting them to accept our beliefs, but instead it's the practice of sharing and living the word that's transformed our own lives with grace and power. We can't help but tell the story. So, the words and deeds of Jesus really did go well together, and that may help us understand why so many people today seem turned off by church, or even the talk of church, and claim to be spiritual, but not religious. They deserve our patient and humble listening, our respect, and not judgment, as we learn from their experience. Perhaps they've not seen enough evidence between our words and our deeds. And this is especially painful. It's pointed out by surveys that show a high percentage of young people who consider churches highly exclusive and judgmental. Is that why our words about God seem not to be more welcome to our listeners? We're in this together. Let's remember that. The church and church were never alone. We take daring, risky steps together. We're called to step out beyond our protective walls of our familiar and comfortable settings, from outside of our congregations, our sanctuaries, and even our families. We're called in this season of Epiphany to exercise our own imagination and our courage and our trust to live in radical openness to all the epiphanies around us, all the wonders that challenge our everyday expectations. Someone said, Jesus still shows up and surprises us. Next thing you know, our lives